Once upon a time on the Western Pacific Railroad, there were many TP-29 class 460 locomotives doing both passenger and freight duties over the system. They were numbered 71 through 106. Most worked well, but many were scrapped in the 1930s due to being worn out from hauling trains. As most of the TP-29 class engines were kind, one of the engines a part of that class was rather a threat to say the least. This engine was numbered 87 and had a bad reputation with freight service. It's unknown on how 87 became this way, but it's likely due to being careless in its early years that later integrated permanently. Number 87 was abusive toward farm animals and cattle riding inside the stock cars, bumping the cars and shoving them to other freight cars. Many times when the stock cars got to their destinations, farmers and railroad workers were shocked to find many were dead. The farmers tried to sue the Western Pacific many times, but the Western Pacific responded to cut some slack since 10-wheeler number 87 was trying his best. Whenever number 87 was assigned to any freight containing livestock, other engines stepped in willing to take his trains, but the number 87 only laughed. Was number 87 ever confronted? Well, some tried to stand up against the number 87, but they were only shoved hard, which some derailed. It was so terrifying, no one could do anything about it, even for his crew. One day, there was an incident that any engines or workers nearby could never forget. 10-wheeler 87 had a hard time trying to move 7 cattle cars as their brakes were faulty. So instead, he backed up and instantly rammed the stock cars into the freight cars. '87 rammed them a couple times, instantly killing the cattle and livestock. The engines and crews couldn't do anything but watched helplessly as number 87 destroyed the cattle cars into pieces. After the damage was done, blood and splintered wood were the result that everyone saw. It was extremely traumatizing that anyone working the yard needed a long time to recover on what just happened. It was only a matter of time until karma finally kicked back. The 1930s saw the Depression years after the stock market crashed, meaning all livestock transportation declined rapidly. Farmers could barely even provide the necessity for their animals and livestock. At the same time, both the Western Pacific and the Great Northern opened the Gateway Subdivision in March of 1931. The Western Pacific ran from the Getaway in the Feather River Canyon to Beaver, California, while the Great Northern ran from Beaver, California all the way to Klamath Falls, Oregon. The line traversed through the desolate Sierra and Shasta Cascade Mountains far from the populated areas. On a slight rainy day in September of 1935, 460 number 87 had the duties to go up to Beaver, California to interchange with the Great Northern. As the number 87 knew he would take a short cattle train, this gave him a chance to abuse more livestock. The livestock was already groaning in pain, but number 87 could care less. By then, it was starting to rain. However, up on a line after Ketty, the switch to a recently closed logging railroad was mistakenly switched. A track gang member took the switch stand off but forgot to put the switch back. As number 87 rattled by, the crew instantly noticed and tried to brake, but the first car had a leaky air hose from number 87's roughness. The crew jumped off knowing number 87's doom was up ahead. The caboose crew noticed them and jumped off as number 87 vanished into the rainy atmosphere. Both the engine and caboose crews wondered if the engine fell off an abandoned trestle that deteriorated heavily. The disclosed line was only 7 miles long, but it had a high trestle. It was closed down due to the Depression and the rails were already being torn up in the process. However, both the crews didn't hear anything, but they decided to walk back to the nearest depot, which was miles away. It was extremely risky to be out in an endless unknown world. Mysteriously, as the track gang members were finishing up taking up the overgrown rails a week later, They never found number 87's remnants or any of the stock cars. The old line was torn up in hours, and it wasn't long into the rails turned into a pavement of right-of-way. All the way from the steam era years into the modern BNSF days, crews and locomotives reported strange unusual sights along the Gateway line, whether it was a clear day or a foggy night. These occurrences happened from September into early November. There were reports of Harriman stock cars either derailed or on sidings far from any populated areas, patches of blood and piles of bones laying by the rails, and maybe even smoke up in the distance, which most said that it wasn't just a campfire. Additionally, both engines and the crews felt as if they're being watched. In rainy weather, it gets weirder. Some crews reported seeing a lonely tender on any disclosed sightings and wise that appeared with the lettering Western Pacific. And there were times when crews thought there was an engine up ahead, but in reality, it was only a vision trick. Were there any victims? Well, that's where the tale ends, since there aren't any human-related deaths from the number 87's haunting. But hopefully, more detail will be put into this soon.